Why are a lot of roses tea-scented? Hybrid tea roses often default to a tea scent, which they inherit from their ancestors Rosa chinensis and Rosa odorata. When breeders prioritize other traits, such as bloom form or color, without selecting for fragrance, what remains is usually a faint, generic, tea-like aroma, typical of the hybrid tea lineage. From a chemical perspective, the tea scent in roses is largely attributed to two highly potent aromatic compounds, β-ionone and β-damascenone. These molecules are detectable by the human nose at incredibly low thresholds, making even a small presence quite noticeable. They are often byproducts of carotenoid breakdown, a metabolical process especially active in tea hybrid roses. In essence, many modern roses retain the tea scent not because it is deliberately selected for, but because hybrid teas dominate modern breeding programs, and the human nose is unusually sensitive to these compounds, and the roses themselves are naturally inclined to produce them, which of course can make me sound like a broken record, especially in something like Tanta roses, which are very strong in the tea hybrid trait. Humans can detect β-ionone at levels as low as 0.007 parts per billion, which is astonishingly low. In comparison, a lot of other scented compounds in roses, like Damask, also called geraniol, needs 30 times or 30,000 times more concentration to be scented, while a fruity fragrance sometimes needs 5 million times more concentration to be picked up by the human nose. This, of course, leads to a lot of roses being tea-scented to us, both because roses like to create the chemical process of tea scent, but also because our noses are much better at detecting it than the other compounds. In short, it is a double whammy. The rose breeders like to breed tea hybrids. The tea hybrid roses, because they're from the Rosa odorata and Rosa chinensis, like to produce these β-ionone compounds from their own metabolical processes, which leads to us having a compound our noses are very sensitive to. In fact, even something like Damask we are 30,000 times less sensitive to than we are to the tea fragrance. And of course, this leads to me sounding like a broken record, saying everything is tea-scented. But when you understand the process behind this, you understand why I have to talk about the tea scent a lot. So if you find at some point that I talk a lot about a 4 out of 10 tea scent, it is not without reason. It is because breeders love to breed tea hybrids, and those tea hybrids love to produce the chemical process of β-ionone, and that produces the scent we are very susceptible to in the human nose, and that leads to a lot of times that this fragrance sneaks into roses by the back door, when breeders don't really pay attention to fragrance, but they're just breeding from tea hybrids. I would like to thank Casonic100 for asking this question about tea fragrances, because it made me realize I haven't done enough to explain the different fragrances to you guys, and also the chemical makeup and how they impact roses. One thing I will mention about when I rate tea fragrances is I look at primarily two things. Is the tea fragrance intentional, or was it just left there as a byproduct? And oftentimes you will find that tea fragrances aren't intentional. They are often just left there as a byproduct of breeding hybrid tea roses by the rose breeders. The second thing I'll look at is does this fragrance, the tea fragrance, does it complement the other notes in the rose? For example, are there some beautiful woody notes, maybe sandalwood in there? Are there some herbal notes, maybe some spicy notes that really goes well with tea fragrance? So you get this kind of Earl Grey effect, maybe. Or is it more a fragrance that is more contrasting? For example, you have something like Francis Milan, which is a good example of this. In Francis Milan, you have a very potent damask fragrance, but that potent damask fragrance is stuck with a very potent tea fragrance. And that leads to two fragrances that kind of clashes on your nose for control. So in that case, the scent feels more like it disturbs the overall picture because it more clashes with the other scent. So that is really the two things I'm looking at when I'm rating tea fragrances. Is it left there intentionally, or is it just a byproduct? And does it fit well with the other fragrances? Is it integrated well? And like I said, I actually do like tea fragrances. If they're either tea fragrance alone, or if it's tea fragrance with these woody notes or herbal and spicy notes, I actually like tea fragrance a whole lot. I love to drink tea, and I go to tea stores and buy really good tea, and I could probably mention a lot about tea. But in my opinion, the tea fragrance should feel intentional, it should complement, and it should be a really good tea scent. And as most of you know, a really good tea is actually quite floral, quite light, and very complex. And a lot of these tea fragrances are sadly more what I often call these tobacco fragrances, where they're very coarse, very acidic, very unpleasant on the nose. And that is often what I mean when I refer to a 4 out of 10 tea scent. It is not a tea scent that is very strong or very well integrated. It just feels like a tea scent that's kind of left there by mistake, sadly. I hope that clears everything up, and I hope you guys now know more why some roses are always tea scented. But I would like to use this opportunity to ask you all, what is your favorite rose on tea scent? And feel free to comment below what you think is the best tea scented rose.